Supporting children is a fundamental and compassionate commitment that transcends borders and boundaries. Every child, regardless of their circumstances, deserves the opportunity to thrive, to learn, and grow in a safe and nurturing environment. Whether through access to education, healthcare, nutrition, or emotional support. Supporting children is an investment in the future, a testament to our shared humanity and a promise of a brighter tomorrow. Today, I have Michael Raya, the president and CEO of Amigos Internationales, with me today. This organization is committed to vulnerable children and their communities' futures. Welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. Glad to be interviewed.
Michael, tell me, you are supporting children with clean water, food, shelter, educational, and of course, emotional tools. How difficult is that? Or maybe I should ask you, how do children not have something as basic as that?
Well, it's amazing. I'm in the United States, and most of our friends are, and they really just do not have a clue unless you've been there to see how fortunate we really are. For example, in Uganda, where we work, every child is supposed to go to school, but unlike the United States, the kids have to pay, or the parents have to pay for the school themselves. And
Hmm.
most of my kids, I call them my kids, they're not my kids. They all probably always will be. They are orphans, or their parents have died of AIDS or from the war that has been going on in South Sudan and in northern Uganda. And so they don't have parent system. They may have a grandmother that lives down the road. It's considered an orphan-led family unit, and they may have three or four brothers and sisters underneath them. They're 10 years old, and they're taking care of the family. Well, they can't pay for education. So if you're 10 years old in a third world country that you don't, and you can't get an education, you really don't have a lot to look forward to in life. And so that's one of the things that we are focusing on, are scholarships and sponsorships. We're actually have started building schools, and we have a school now in northern Uganda in a little town called Ogle Village, where we have 266 children that are going to school every term. And as of last 2 weeks ago, we just started a preschool in of nearly all orphans in Chibi, Tanzania. So we're really excited about that. And we've got four other points in the refugee settlements where they're coming in from South Sudan. And we have water wells there. The first thing that we do, we've been so successful in Ogle Village that the local villagers, the village leaders, have been giving us land, and we'll take several acres or hectares of land, and
Hmm.
they'll give it to us. First thing that we'll do is we'll drill a water well, and then we will begin a church slash school so that we can give them education. In the refugee settlements, they're coming from South Sudan from the war. They're given by the Ugandan government a 300 by 300 square foot piece of property to put a house and maybe a very, very small garden. And there may be a family of four or five or six living on that 300 by 300 square foot spot. And so we actually, in Ogle Village, we've got a farm, a demonstration farm there where we've got a tractor, and we're raising rice and corn and maize and even sweet potatoes and beans. And these are helping the population there to continue to grow and develop that neighborhood. And we even have a goat farm where we're raising goats and chickens and teaching them how to do that more effectively. So that's part of what we're trying to give them a leg up, a hand out, not a hand up, not a hand out. And so just to teach them how to be responsible rather than just go out as a lot of humanitarian aids and just dish out
Right.
free stuff. We're trying to teach them how to be better, and that's part of our motto: is that each child can be taught to be better than they are currently. So,
That's wonderful. It's like that proverb, isn't it? You teach a man to fish and you feed him for an entire lifetime. I think that's what you're
That's right.
following. That's
That's
wonderful.
exactly
So
what we're trying to do.
how did this organization start? Who thought of going to Uganda and starting this entire uh, process of nurturing children, providing support? What
Sure.
was your beginning?
Well, Amigos Internationales started in 1967 down in Texas, but we were building medical mobile clinics and mobile dental clinics for the valley in between Mexico and Texas. And we have been ongoing. But the last 8 years, I've been president and CEO, and we were offered the opportunity to go in and help some children in Uganda. Had never been to Uganda before, so we began to look at that process, and we found a young man named Patrick Kibwoda who is in Gulu, who's helped us tremendously as a local, and he's now the head of our Ugandan organization. And we started finding these sponsored children that were on the streets, that were not in school. In fact, he helped me find a little girl named Brenda Loya that was basically homeless. She had three or four brothers at home, but we couldn't get her in school, couldn't even find her. And he found her. We put her in our program, and now 4 years later, she is in school, and she's doing so well that she quoted a poem in French for me. And I don't know how many children that are go from homeless in 4 years to where they're actually doing well, becoming fluent in French. So that's a great success story for us. And we have
It
several.
is
We have a
indeed.
lot of stories like that. So it
It's
keeps you coming to work every morning. I can tell you that for sure. So
absolutely
yes,
very rewarding, very rewarding, I'm
yes,
sure.
it is. Yes.
Uh, I'm sure you have also spotted some great talent in this pool of children who have probably not, seen a school ever. But once, like you say, once they have been to a school, they flourish and they thrive in that environment. Do you see any promising students like that, whether it is
Oh,
academics or sports?
you bet. In fact, one of the when in our sponsorship program, which you can find it at www.rescueachild and sponsor your child, you'll get a video of their progress, and they'll come on and say, "Hey, thank you, Mr. Stroder, for sponsoring me." And we've got a young girl named Priska that wants to be a nurse, and she's been sponsored. This is her fourth year, and her sponsor actually went to Uganda with me and visited with her and hugged her neck and made her a promise that if she wants to be a nurse, he'll bring her back and put her through nursing school if she promises to go back to Uganda and help her people, which is what she wants to do. I've got another little girl named Michelle that was just quiet and shy. She was in her first grade when we found her, and she lived with her grandmother that was down the road, and wasn't in school at all. And we put her in our school 3 years ago. And my first visit with her after she being in school a month, her teacher showed that she was first in her class. So I just look at
Wow,
that and go, look at
that
the
is something.
wasted potential of this
Absolutely.
little girl that was just going to be sitting around doing nothing because she couldn't afford to go to school. And we pay for school fees. We buy them clothes, uniforms, underwear, school supplies. We even give them a solar lamp so they can study at
Hmm.
night because there's no electricity where these kids live. So the solar lamp
Hmm.
is very beneficial for them to do their studies. And during the
Okay.
pandemic, we actually bought them goats and chickens so that they could at least have milk and eggs and cheese. No meat though. We wouldn't let them eat the goats. So
Hmm.
they had to just milk them and use it for milk and cheese. So
That's a lesson in itself.
yes, it is. It is.
uh, Michael, I did look up your website and I found that you also provide emergency services in response to disasters.
Yes. Yes,
Can you tell
we
us?
actually we do 7.5 million meals through a grant with USAID in Guatemala, and for the children and expectant moms on the border between Honduras and Guatemala, there's a really bad
Hmm.
drought.
Hmm.
We have been doing humanitarian aid around the world for the last 55 years, but this particular one, if you'll remember the volcano that erupted in Guatemala, the government came to us and
Yes,
said,
yes.
we have 50,000 displaced people. We need food. So we were able to, within that afternoon, provide, we had it in the warehouse. So we had 500,000 meals that were there that we're able to access and take out and give to these families in those sorts of, and that kind of need. We helped during 9/11 with New York. We were cleaning apartments for nothing, for free. When the tsunami hit and we were in Sri Lanka cleaning out water wells, the waves took all the salt water or the freshwater wells and filled them full of salt water. So we took crews in there and pumped out the wells, and so we've been helping people in disaster situations. In fact, with the earthquake in Syria, we just sent 10,000 blankets into Syria, and we it was an interesting thing because it was there was no way of getting them in because of the blockade, because of the humanitarian blockade. So we had to go through about 4 or 5 different people to get them to them. But they are now in that when they were freezing to death over there, we were able to provide them 10,000 blankets in Syria.
Wow.
Let's take a break to understand what Chizuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state of the art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chizuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chizuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chizuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chizuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest.
I'm amazed at the mag- magnitude of work that you are doing. You are across the globe and you provide disaster relief. Disaster relief is something that has to come immediately, isn't it, after the first responders?
Yes.
So obviously, it requires a lot of coordination, it requires a lot of collaboration as well. So, could you tell us about the challenges that you are facing, or how do you overcome these challenges?
Well, one of the major problems that we face in every nonprofit in this day and age right now is facing is funding. Grants, since COVID, grants have kind of been limited as well, and our economy is just really struggling. And so we have trouble, with donors. But we have to if we don't cooperate and coordinate our efforts. One of our partners in Guatemala is Buckner International. They have a children's home here in Dallas, not far from us, but they distribute the food for Guatemala. We work with Texas Baptist Men. We drill a water. They have a water drilling machine there. They actually purchased the water drilling machine. We paid for the shipping so that we could have it up in northern Uganda to use. And our first thing when we get a piece of land is we drill a water well because these African women are carrying water 3.5 miles a day for their families,
I
and
really, yes,
it,
absolutely.
it's tragic. We have a video on our website where we just filmed it, and the ladies that were in the stream getting the water for them to eat, they had pigs coming down from upstream that they were wallering in the mud and in the water, and that's the water that they were drinking from. But now, because of generous partners and donors, we've got a water well there for them. They don't have to walk 3 miles. They walk about 300 yards to the village, to the water, and they have fresh, clean, disease-free water. Our very first water well we drilled 5 years ago, we tested and found that there was cholera and diphtheria and typhus in the water. So we immediately drilled a well there, and this school has fresh, clean water now. serves 200 families a day, every day, fresh, clean water that's disease free now because it's a deep water well.
That is amazing. So I did talk to a nonprofit a couple of months ago, and I found out that she also was working in Kenya or one of the African countries, and
Hmm.
she said when she paid somebody to drill the wells, they kind of didn't do a good job. They did a half-baked job, and she had trouble actually providing for the community. So how do you make sure that till the end the project is completed to the satisfaction of the community till your target is reached?
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've got a good group of people. First thing that we do is we do a seismic. Once the land is Amigos, and we have a Amigos Internationales of Uganda is a nonprofit over there. Patrick, our specialist, is best in the business over there. He oversees all that, but they do a seismic survey so that they can find the best place to drill water on our land. And then we have a team that goes in and drills the water, and it he sees it through to completion. In fact, my last trip there, we walked the drilling rig on site. 4 hours later, we went and had a meal with these villagers and celebrated the fact that water was coming into the village. And by the time we left at 4 hours, they had already hit water at 70 meters, and the whole village erupted in cheers and chants
Celebration. Yeah,
and celebration. Yes, and so we get to see those kind of things again. It's pretty motivating when you get to watch that every day.
absolutely.
We've
Yes.
we've drilled a lot of wells. We've only had one set and we're right in the middle of it right now, where it's a dry hole. But it's also the dry season, so we're hoping to redo that seismic survey and find another spot and drill for this community because they need water desperately. We
Mhm.
have identified our people up there in the schools and churches, have identified 25 areas in the refugee camps, settlements that need water wells and schools. And so that's our challenge in 25 or by 25 is 25 by 25 so that we can have 25 mission points or water wells and schools by the year 2025. And that's going to be a real challenge for us, but I think we're up for it. And I'm excited to see the number of kids in these refugee settlements, the one we just have started, kids were first, second graders were having to walk 11 kilometers if they were going to go to school, which means they
Wow.
probably weren't going to go to school. So
I know
that
the
tells me that we're actually changing lives. And that's our motto is saving children one life at a time. And if we can just reach one, you never know what that one person is going to do. So it's
so true.
the old saying that you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the apples in a seed. So I'm looking for one or
Yes.
two seeds that can just replicate these issues and help us there. So
That is fantastic. Wonderful. And would you need any support in that? If there's somebody who's a potential supporter or a volunteer who's interested in joining your cause, uh, how do you would you ask that person to go about it?
well, we have a website which is www.amigosii.org. And there you can donate. You can actually even fundraise for us. There are people that have a fundraising page, and they see the need for what we're doing. And the others, there's volunteers. We have volunteers in Uganda all the time that come in and help us. So one of the I hadn't even talked about the latest thing that we have in
Hmm.
one of the refugee settlements. We have started a sewing class because our main issue is to keep these. If the kids don't have school or they don't have a way of making a living, they're going to end up in sex trafficking. It's just a part of that
Yeah,
culture. And so
true.
we have started sewing classes, and I just got pictures yesterday from our first sewing class over there. We are taking girls, and I've got two girls that are 12 and 13 years old that were raped,
Oh my
and
God. Oh,
they have children now because of that, and they have no way to make a living. So we've enrolled them in our educational program, and they're doing after school. They're learning to sew so that they can make a living sewing and keeping them out of sex trafficking. So that's a real need right now that we have. You can donate sewing machines through our website. You can donate just you can sponsor a child again at rescueachild.org and help a child out. We have monthly donations there for that. So
Wonderful. So, everybody is listening to this. Please go to their website and make sure that you are doing something about it, not just listening to
yes,
this podcast and, thinking about how bad the situation can be. Wonderful. Thank you, Michael. It was wonderful talking to you. And I'm really, really happy to share the wonderful work that you are doing.
thank you. If it wasn't for organizations like you, I couldn't get the word out by myself. So I'm glad that you chose to talk to me and visit with me and find out about my kids. If you go back through my office, you see on every wall in my office, I have pictures of my kids, and they haunt me basically because I realize if we don't do a good job, these guys don't eat,
Yeah.
and so it
Yeah.
kind of keeps me motivated.
Wonderful. Well, supporting children is not only a moral imperative, but a collective responsibility. And I think Amigos Internationals exemplifies the power of compassion and global solidarity. Their
Thank you.
unwavering commitment to providing essential support and care for children in need, irrespective of their circumstances, is a beacon of hope. Let us all be inspired by their mission and join hands to ensure that every child's fundamental rights are respected and upheld. Thank you, Michael. It was
Yes,
wonderful talking to you.
thank you. Glad to be here.